Welcome back to Lalita-Sahasra-Nāma. We will start as always with the dhyana verses. Om Sindura Runa Vigraham Trinayanam Manikyavaulispurattarana Yakashekaram Smitamukhi Mapina Vakshoruham Panibhyam Alipurna Ratna Chashakam Raktotpalam Bimhratim Saumyam Ratna Katastha Raktacharanam Dhyayet Paramambikam Dhyayet Padmasanastham Vikasitavadanam Padmapatrayatakshim Hemabham Pitavastram Karakalitarasadhema Padmam Varangim Sarvalankara Yuktam Satatamabhayadam Bhaktanamram Bhavanim Shri Vidyam Shantamurtim Sakalasudanutam Sarvasampat Pradatrim Sakumkumavilepanamalikachumvikasturikam Samandahasite Kshanam Sasharacha Papashankusham Ashesha Janamohini Marunamalya Bhusham Varam Japakusumabhasuram Japavito Smaredambikam Arunam Karunatarangitakshim Dritapashankushapushpabana Chapam Animadibhiravritam Mayukhairahamityeva Vibhavaye Bhavanim. Always remember when you study a tradition like Sri Vidya that the deity in its manifestation as a form is only the outer aspect, what is known as Stula Dhyana in the language of the Agamas. Then there is also the internal or Sukshma Dhyana, the Sukshma subtle aspect, which is always related to the energies of our subtle body. Some of you who have joined the retreats or who have practiced other spiritual methods, you sometimes encounter some inner energy, or you might see things, or you might feel things. This is what is called the subtle aspect. And then there is also an innermost aspect, which is the one related to awareness, reality, absolute wisdom. And that is the one where we ultimately seek to reach towards, starting with the outer meditation on the deity. Now, last time we spoke about the 64 arts, which are mentioned in the Agamas as being kalas or aspects of Devi. And although it may take quite some time, I will just run through them because it is interesting for you to know what the 64 arts are in fact. So I mentioned already that singing is one of them, it's the first one listed. And then there is playing musical instruments. Thus, when you engage in musical instruments of any kind with the awareness or with the attitude that you are in fact expressing Devi, that is very auspicious. And the same goes for learning how to sing. I have recommended to a couple of people that it would be very auspicious for them to develop their voice, to learn to sing, and one can do so at any age. And then the third one is dancing, Nritya. As you know, Tripura Sundari is a dancer. Now I mean our Tripura Sundari. Tripura is a dancer, but dance is not only Nritya. Dance is really embodying the goddess through movement, experiencing that. And it is not only something for women as the attitude might be nowadays. In fact, I believe in ancient India, maybe up to the 17th, 18th century, there were as many men who embodied the deities through dance as there were women. And then the fourth is Natya Vidya. Natya is often mingled together with Nritya, with the dance, but Natya in fact means performance, like in a theatre play. embodying emotions through certain actions like anger or happiness and so forth, and bringing about the emotion in the viewer. It's a very subtle science, and the great Kashmiri master Abhinavagupta wrote a very extensive commentary on the science of Natya, where he links up Natya with the inner states of mind and how embodying these externally is a practice to cultivate them internally, and vice versa. It's very, very fascinating. I'll go a little faster now. Painting. Those of you who like to paint, this is considered one of the 64 arts. So the artists among you, please feel encouraged to express Devi through this action, through this activity. Then there is the anointing of the face and body with color. So for instance, beautifying your hands with the mehendi at the time of a wedding or other types of beautification is a science. Then there is the preparation of offerings, how to prepare offerings for pujas. I've always felt that in modern times, Tibetans, if you watch their pujas, they're so elaborate, the way they prepare the offerings. Whereas in the Hindu tradition, we cook it and then we just put it there. And it is not so elaborate anymore, even though our food is excellent. But here it is about the preparing of the offerings, anointing, the preparation with flowers and rice and so forth. Then another science is how to make your bed beautiful. Now here, of course, I could make a lot of jokes. I'm sure that some of you don't bother about making your bed in the morning when you get up because you're so stressed. But it's really one of the sciences, how to make our living space beautiful. And here it is, the sleeping space. Why we spend so much time there? Spiritual people ideally don't spend so much time there, but ordinary people spend a lot of time in bed. So isn't it important for that place where you spend so much time to be beautiful? Then, how to use tools to clean your teeth and your body. How to keep yourself hygienic is a science, is one of the 64 arts. Thus, when we see people paying attention to their physical hygiene, it is actually very precious if they do it from a sense of Devi's presence. And then how to apply jewels, how to prepare the jewels in such a way that it becomes a very beautiful embellishment of your beauty. The scriptures say that when you beautify yourself, you should already be beautiful from the inside, and the external beauty should just be added on top of that to highlight your existing beauty. It is very, very interesting. In Kumara Sambhava or by Kalidasa, one finds this description. So if you're not beautiful inside, no matter how much you add in terms of jewelry externally, it is not going to change that much, or it's not going to bring out the real beauty that you have. And then also how to prepare the sofas, the places where guests can sit in your house, how to play in the water, how to play music in the water, in fact, how to engage romantically with a partner and have a beautiful time in the water. It's very interesting. I hope none of you are shocked by this, but these are the traditional kalas. And then how to mix colors is one of them. How to prepare malas, malya gratana, how to prepare flower malas is such an important ability. if you go to South India today, people still know how to do that. Of course, also some people in the north. And girls in South India, they still wear the flowers in their hair, and something very, very beautiful. And I hope that this tradition continues. How to use a tiara, a kind of crown on your head, how to prepare that and how to wear it. How to dress your ears with flowers or ornaments. How to apply perfume. Sometimes, especially in Switzerland, but I'm sure you have this in the UK too, when you go past through a shopping center or somewhere, you walk past, and then some people, they wear so much perfume that you you have to cough because it's too much, right? So Sugandha Yukti here is really an art not to use too much perfume, and to use the right perfume, the one that actually fits your skin texture and so on. And then, of course, Bhujana Yojana, how to actually wear ornaments. And by the way, those who might be thinking, oh, this is all just for women. No, it's not. In ancient India, this was for both men and women. It was not only women who used lovely perfumes or who anointed themselves. So the idea of masculinity in ancient India was different from the one we have today in the West, where men just walk around in black clothes and the only ornament they have is maybe a watch or something. Ancient India was very rich, very. And then how to practice sort of magic tricks, but these are now, it really means magic tricks, like we show children. It's not meant in the sense of magic, through spells or something. It's really meant how to perform magic tricks. And I think it's very beautiful because it gives a lot of joy, especially to children, but also to adults. If you know how to do some tricks like card tricks or coin tricks or other things, this was considered one of the 64 arts. And sleight of hand, hasta laghava, how to let something disappear without someone noticing. How to prepare varieties of delicious food. So to be a good cook was a requirement of any yogi or any spiritual person in ancient India. And one of my great gurus said that this is the first thing a spiritual practitioner should learn, how to prepare good food. Because food, again, is something that is so central to our existence. Like I said, most of you sleep the most of your life. Not most of your life, but at a third or fourth of your life you spend sleeping. Similarly, you spend so much time with food. So when you have this British attitude towards food, right, which is sort of very quickly, I just need to get my food over with, right? This is the mentality. I'm not alleging that this is the case for everyone, but there's a tendency, isn't there, in the West or in modern times to get it over with quickly. It's something, it should be good, yes, but it's something, let's get it over with quickly. Whereas here, that's why the pasta culture or the fast food culture is typical of that. Whereas here, it is an art. How to prepare different varieties of excellent food. And then similarly, how to prepare delicious drinks, like special lassis and different types of drinks. Then, how to weave and apply needlework. And remember, as I mentioned last time, this was really, these 64 arts were not just you choose one of them or two of them, they really try to perfect all of them. That was so fascinating. So these were all sort of universal personalities, universal, maybe not geniuses, but so multifaceted personalities that the guru In this Sri Vidya tradition, the Guru would require the students to pass through these, to acquire a basic skill in all of these. So how to weave, how to use needles, how to apply thread work properly. And then how to play the veena and the damaru. These are two instruments that are considered very sacred to Devi and the Sri Vidya tradition. Then another art is how to make and solve riddles. As a child, I always loved that. Riddles, creating riddles in the dark. If you have read The Hobbit, this was one of my favorite books because of that chapter about riddles. And then how to use language in a way that you can convince others. So we could say eloquence, perhaps, but not sophistry. The idea is not that you like the politicians or so who just learn how to speak, for the sake of persuading. Not in that way. Here it is really about how to use language in a convincing way, but truthfully. And then how to read and understand books, how to comprehend books, how to enact plays, short plays, and anecdotes, how to tell stories, really. That's what it means here. How to express yourself in picturesque language, which we know from modern communication science is the essence of good management and organization and creativity and innovation is really how to tell the story. So this was part of the ancient tradition. How to write poetry. And then on the more martial side, how to prepare weapons, like how to make a shield, how to make arrows, and such things. Carpentry, how to make your own desk, for instance. I doubt that there are many among you today who know how to make a desk. I don't know either, but that was part of it. Then Vastu Vidya, which is the understanding of how to arrange things in our home. What the Chinese call Feng Shui, Vastu, is really about using the energy of objects. How should things be arranged that the energy is good, that when you come home, there is an uplifting sense, that when people enter your house, automatically they feel, there's a good atmosphere here. That has a lot to do with how you arrange things. If your house is a mess, you can be sure when people enter, they will feel constricted and a little bit. They might behave politely, but that is really the instinctive reaction. And also how to construct your home. Now, of course, in modern times, there is the tendency for people to rent apartments or to buy homes that are pre-prepared, whereas in ancient times they would use someone who's an expert in Vastu Vidya, and here in the Agamas everyone was expected to be an expert at this, and then we would build the houses or the huts, the residences in such a way that from the start everything would be really perfect, and then it would be like a temple. You see, you would enter the home and it would just have all the blessings. And then how to test silver, gold, and jewels, understanding of what is a good jewel. What is it really pure gold? Is it just 18 karat gold, or is it 24 karat gold? An understanding of precious metals, and also metallurgy. So dhatuvada, the understanding of metals, and what we might call chemistry today. How to use jewels in a way that is beneficial to others and also oneself. So gemology, right, is the word for that in English. And we still have a couple of good gemologists in India. This was a very, very ancient tradition. Then mineralogy, understanding the use of crystals and substances like that. Then medicine, as I mentioned last time. Those of you who are medical doctors, you are actually living one of the 64 kalas. Then interpreting the signs of nature. So for instance, the flight of birds or the sound of birds, which actually means something. People are not aware of that anymore in modern times, but very often when you have a strong question in your mind or when a situation is occurring with others, the birds, the way they make sounds and the way they fly is very often, I'm not saying always, but it's very often connected with your circumstance. For instance, and many don't believe this and it sounds very superstitious and supernatural, but even the clouds and the weather are sometimes are related to your current circumstance. Now that doesn't mean you are creating the weather, you see, it's not meant like that. This is science. I do know a little bit about this one. So it is something quite fascinating. And then this is a lovely one. How to maintain a good conversation with a male or a female in the sense of between man and woman. How to actually speak with each other. And I think that's so fascinating that the ancient Indian masters considered that to be important. How to actually learn to speak with each other. A science of dialogue, a science of speaking. And I always remember at university, they used to praise this German philosopher, Gadamer, I think, yes, about his writings on how to have dialogues with each other, as if it was something very revolutionary. And I always felt this was present in ancient India. Why aren't you reading ancient Indian texts about this? Then, how to apply healing balms, such as using this is of course part of medicine, but how to apply creams, how to make the creams, but also then how to apply them. This would come under massaging, how to give someone a good massage that gives the person health and energy. How to, then another art here is how to comb your hair properly. And how to use your fingers for speaking, so sign language. And it's so interesting that people today who can't speak, they use sign language. And there was something similar in ancient India, and it was considered one of the 64 arts. Then, how to make and use amulets, protective amulets. Not only protective, in ancient India there was a science about how to create what is nowadays in Hindi called tabis, protective amulets that one would wear, which would have certain effect. But not only to protect, also for instance for children who were not good at school, to bring out their brilliance, their creativity. So it's important to be able to use this. Then the knowledge of local dialects, desha bhasha jnana. Not to have only one dialect and not to be able to speak only one language of your country and region, but to actually have an understanding of various dialects and speeches and forms of speech. That shows you again the universality that was present. Not only we speak Scottish and we don't like the English, and vice versa. Or we speak Punjabi and we don't like the Gujaratis. The Gujus are all vegetarians and we eat meat. And all this, this divisiveness, this you can see that ingrained in the system of the agamas that was not present if you had to learn the languages of the others. And Then related also to the science of nature are this is called nirmiti jnana, is really to be able to interpret the omens, outer as well as inner omens. And I'll give you a little example here. And you see, one day, if anyone among you really wants to learn these things, you see, has to be earned a little bit. This is not just something we can do in Zoom sessions. There is, for instance, a system where we use our breath, the flow of our breath, to check whether we are in the right condition to do certain things. I've talked about this before, but this is a very subtle science. It's not superstition. I've tested this for many, many years, and I'm a very rational person. So have my gurus. Always tested this. It's a real science. The flow of the right nostril is linked to the flow of the solar nadi. So for instance, when the right nostril is active, but also there are then subvariants of that, which is called the 5 elements. So when it flows quite strongly, then it is the fire element. When it flows less strongly, it is the wind element, and so on. And these again have different meanings. So for instance, if you need to engage in a very argumentative discussion, a kind of where you need to persuade others of something, where you need to be a leader, or you need to really have power and energy in your voice, you would wait till your breath would flow through the right nostril and with the Agni Tattva, with the fire element, and then you would speak, and you would place your whole body in a certain position for that energy to come through. It's a very powerful, subtle science. But similarly, for certain other activities, for instance, for activities of enjoyment, or appreciating music, or writing poetry, or engaging in romance, you would wait for the left nostril to be active and the water element. So I'm just giving you some examples. And this goes even further. There is part of this science is that when someone asks you a question, you will, if you have good observational skills, if there is a real yogi around who has mastered this science, you will see them secretly checking the flow of their breath. Now, most people, when you don't know this science, you just think he's just going like this, or, he's but actually they're checking the flow of their breath because they're seeing whether their mind is in a condition to give an answer or not. And our first guru, Sri Swami Omkarananda, he always did that. And of course, once you become an expert at recognizing which nostril is flowing, and of course, with advanced yogis, always both nostrils are flowing because that is the middle channel. That is why most advanced yogis have to be quiet, since they can't really engage in either the right nor the left side. This is very, very subtle science. But you will see that with time, you can know from the flow. You don't have to go like this. You know from the flow which one is flowing. And then when it gets even more advanced, you don't need to check your breath. You can just observe your mind. And from the state of your mind, you know which form of the breath is flowing. So it's very advanced science. And you can use this to even to make predictions in a way, at least to really tune into intuition and to very, very subtle aspects, such subtle abilities. Then mechanics, engineering, one could call this, is another science. How to create instruments, how to use and create instruments. And then how to counter a kutarka, how to respond to kutarka. Kutarka is a kind of sophistry. It's a kind of logic, the purpose of which, however, is not finding truth. So, for instance, it's people who argue for the sake of winning an argument. That is called kutarka, who aren't really interested in seeking the truth or seeking the benefit, their own benefit or your benefit. It's just to win the argument. And I'm sure all of you know those people. This is called kutarka. And how to respond to kutarka is one of the 64 kalas. And then, this is also in the context of dialogue, how to speak. This is, however, not in romance. This is generally how to speak in a group, how to express oneself, how to conduct dialogue with others, how to engage others in dialogue that has benefit, that brings truth, joy, and benefit. How to create verses in the mind only. So this is in contrast to poetry that one uses while writing. This one is just in the mind. And I know what this really refers to because I have met people to whom this happens. What this really refers to is inspired poetry. The kind of poetry that just pours forth from you. That when you're so uplifted by seeing something or by a certain moment or by some spiritual experience, that poetry pours forth in you just within your mind and heart. So this is it's an art because it of course requires that you have a very, very rich vocabulary and that you have trained yourself in language. Now, if you don't know a lot of words and if language has not become part and parcel of your being, then this natural kind of poetry cannot flow forth. You see? Then you will struggle to find for words and it will no longer be natural poetry coming out. It will sort of be contrived poetry. It will be artificial poetry. You see the kind of poetry that ordinary people write when they write something. Then, how to design a literary work. So, how to be an author. I always am a little sad that I have not trained in that, because through all the spiritual experience and all these meditative practices, there is so much that we would like to share with others, but I never really trained in writing. So that is a big shame. Whereas there are some great authors out there who are tremendous authors. They're so good at writing, but they don't really have much to share. So they're just writing something and it's wonderfully written, but they don't have much to share. So the perfect combination is, of course, someone who has a lot to share and also is a great author. And then how to build one's shrine, how to arrange one's shrine, one's spiritual temple that you have at home. It's a very great science. For instance, many people don't know that a shrine should never be at the lower floor. If you have 2 floors, the shrine should actually be above, not below where you walk over. And I've seen that there is a tendency for people actually to keep the shrine on the ground floor. And the reason they do this is because Havan should be done on the ground floor, touching the earth. Because Agni is considered to be the son of the earth, therefore he should be in touch with the earth and not on the 2nd or 3rd floor. But people mistake that instruction to mean the puja shrine should be on the ground floor. But that is not good, actually. My guru always said it's really not good. It's sort of inauspicious. And I could, with time, we become very sensitive. So sometimes when I entered a house, I could sense there's some inauspicious thing here. It's not so auspicious. And then very often it was because the shrine was on the lower floor and people were walking above the shrine. You see, so these are some very basic instructions. Also the direction in which the shrine should be, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, how to use dictionaries, how to use books and grammar science and all these things. How to dress well, how to play board games, like chess and other beautiful games. How to behave flirtatiously, how to, how to behave and play and speak and act in a way that a girl or a boy will like you. I mean, it's very important that one learns this. One doesn't really learn this in modern times, isn't it? You just sort of, they expect you to learn it from TV series, isn't it? Has anyone ever really had a talk with you when you were 14, 15 and you started having all these feelings for the opposite gender? Did anyone teach you how to flirt? I don't think so. Of course, I don't need it anymore, but I have learned it. No, I'm just joking. I don't need it anymore. Tripuraji is not here today, so I can just say whatever I want in this class. But it really is, it's a science. And in ancient India, they taught you how to do that. How to observe the characteristics in others. And I'll give you one example. I mentioned this before, that when you, oh, now she's coming. She's smiling. So one of the signs that, now this is for the men out there, one of the signs that a lady or a girl likes you in the scriptures is that when she sees you, when she encounters you, she plays with her hair. Now just observe that. There is an infinite truth to that. It's really true. And it's not just because the person is nervous. And the scripture even gives us an exact indication which type of playing with the hair is related to just nervosity and which one is related to the girl being attracted to you. You see, this is very, very interesting. And in this way, they give you many other things. Like if the girl keeps going like this, keeps biting her lower lip, which looks a little funny, it means she's attracted to you. If the girl laughs when you say things, whereas others don't necessarily laugh, if she's especially laughing and there is a certain tonality to her laugh, then that means she's attracted to you. But don't worry, it's also the other way. The scriptures also teach the ladies how to recognize that in men. So it is both ways. And then how to play with children is another of the 64 arts. Because you see, that's also something we don't really learn. We just have to hope that our own childhood was good. And then when that is the case, then we know how to play with children. But if we haven't really learned that, then we might be lost a little bit. And I really sometimes admire when I see the kindergarten teachers. Of course, now our younger son is in school already, but I really admired how creative they were, what kind of games they came up with. And I thought, wow, I wouldn't come up with 3 games if I had to create one. And they do one, they create one, a new one every day. So it's quite amazing. And then how to enforce discipline, how to, maybe this could be called management in modern times. How to make people around you disciplined. How to manage, but also yourself. How to live and create discipline in yourself and in others. And then how to be victorious, in how to be successful, we might say. And of course, this is one of the great subjects in modern YouTube videos, how to have success. And then, of course, how to master the vidya of deities, of divinities. So, these are the 64 arts, and it is something fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this, and remember that Chatushashtikalamayi, the name that we had covered, means she who embodies these 64 arts. And also remember that if you want to be or become a practitioner of Sri Vidya, you should begin to work on learning some of these arts, on further educating yourself, further training yourself, and not remaining just stuck with what you learned in the past. And you see, the beauty of this is also that they are so complex and so profound that you will never stop learning if you are a Sri Vidya practitioner. You see, you will always have these fields to engage with and to learn. For instance, if you think, oh, now I'm old and I can't learn anymore, well, you can still, for instance, learn gemology. What's the problem? You can learn about the power of gems and astronomy, astrology. Or you can learn, let us say, how to paint. Why not? You can take a course in painting, isn't it? Some of my friends in the UK, I've suggested them to learn how to sing, because not only is it a beautiful activity, but I can recognize a difference in their voice and in their confidence. Because when your voice is not so stable, when your voice is, or your voice is smoky, that some people have this smoky voice as if they are chain smokers, then you don't come across towards others in a way that is uplifting and beneficial. And that also affects you. Whereas when your voice is beautiful, and anyone can train their voice, really. Any singer will tell you, you can train your voice. Then you gain more confidence. So learning these kalas, learning these arts is really beneficial to you and to people around you. So I encourage you to take this as an inspiration from this beautiful tradition. And also, the 64 arts are connected with the 64 yoginis. The 64 yoginis are divine female goddesses that are present in the Sri Yantra. So there is something also more than just an outer art. There is something connecting you to the Devi when you engage in these arts. And for example, Natya and Nritya, the theatrical performance or actual dance, they follow very certain, very concrete rules and principles. And when this is done correctly, for instance, the mudras and so on, when these are done correctly, you can actually feel the surge of certain goddess energies in you. This is not just an imagination. When you do certain things, I'll give you one example, and I hope that my gurus agree that I can share this example. It's a very powerful thing, that if you take a flower and you go like this, sort of like you're waving the flower as an offering, and then you throw it into the sky as an offering to Devi, there is a sort of instant descent of energy and blessings. This is a secret, sort of confidential instruction. Please take it as something very precious. So you take a flower and you throw it into the sky. That is one of these special instructions where one can feel the blessings of the Devi very powerfully, very fast. And thus, these arts that are so detailed, they really connect us to the 64 yoginis, the goddesses, in a very powerful way. One day we will also hear about the 64 yoginis. There are 3 temples in India still dedicated to the 64 yoginis. One of them is in Orissa, the other is in Madhya Pradesh, and the other is in Rajasthan. Very, very beautiful temples, incredible temples. And before we go to the meditation, in fact, and this is not an urban legend, in fact, the Indian Parliament, as it is constructed today in Delhi, is modeled after the 64 Yogini temple in Rajasthan. This is really true. I'm not making it up. You can read about this. But no one knows this, of course. So these 64 Yogini temples are directly related to the Sri Vidya tradition. The 64 Yoginis are present there, and their blessings can be felt very powerfully. One of my dreams is that one day, if and when some of you have become Sri Vidya practitioners, if you really want to become Sri Vidya practitioners, that we can go on a pilgrimage to the 64 Yogini temple in India. You know, that we have a small group, 10, 15 people, and we go on a pilgrimage there to experience the Devi power there. So Today we have only covered this one name, and now we'll go to the meditation. Please remember that the meditation is also not made up by me. It is also from the scriptures. Sudha Sindhor Madhye Sura Vitapivati Parivrite Manidvipe Nipo Pavati. Now, let's see if I can do the verse again. Manidvipe Nivo Pavanavati Chinta Manigrihe Shivakare Manche Paramashiva Paryanka Nilayam Bhajanti Tvam Dhanyah Katichidananda Laharim. So this is the verse indicating, hinting at this meditation that. But please first relax. And connect with your own consciousness that is always present. It's undying, unending, always there in your heart. And now in the center of your heart, emerging from your own consciousness, is the nectar ocean. It's a vast ocean. Its color is white like milk, with the rosy hue and the colors of the rainbow glittering in it. It expands in all directions. A boundless ocean of nectar. And it's in its very center is the island of jewels, the most precious jewels. Sapphire, ruby, Vaidurya, which means lapis lazuli, all the most precious jewels, but living jewels. Wish-fulfilling jewels. And in the center of this island is a wood of Kadamba trees, hibiscus trees. And in the center of this wood is a lake of lotuses. And at the center of this is the palace of the Sri Chakra. With 4 entry points in each of the directions and 9 layers once one has entered. And as you pass through the 9 stages, you meet all the yoginis, the great goddesses. powerful Devis, embodying many different qualities, aspects of realization, of wisdom, of compassion. And they are all dancing. They are all blissful, shining, radiating bliss. And as you reach the innermost, there is upon Shiva, sitting in his lap, Tripura Sundari, Lalita, of incredible beauty. A rosy light, a rosy hue emanates from her. The atmosphere is that of kumkum. And her eyes radiate waves upon waves of compassion and kindness, while at the same time filled with infinite wisdom, infinite energy. And this wave of bliss and compassion flows from her to you. And you recognize that this is your own true potential. This is your own true nature. And then she dissolves in you, the Sri Chakra dissolves in you. The island of jewels dissolves in you. And the nectar ocean dissolves in you. And only your own consciousness remains. Now, if there are any questions,
Namaste, Acharya.
Namaste, Devikaji.
Thank you for that. It was really interesting. I wanted to ask two things. One is you said to do the various things, which some of them I was really surprised at that they were there, but to do them with the embodiment of Devi. So I just wanted to understand what you meant by that, please. And the other thing is, you began talking about, I think, the weather. I was really fascinated at if you're able to share any more.
So there is, let us say, someone goes and takes a course in dance or painting. Let's take painting, something else. And the motivation to take that course can be I want to do something interesting. I want to meet people. I want to, to get some new skill. Or it can be, I want to engage in this as an art for the sake of the art itself. And the art is being an expression of the goddess. Then that activity becomes like a worship. While you then engage in the painting, it is really like a kind of puja, and that can be felt. There is a big difference. Similarly, if you, let us say, tidying up our bed, right? How to create the cover of our bed and our room, making it nice and beautiful. If we actually see that as an expression of puja, as an expression of one of these 64 kalas, then naturally there is a very different energy to it, rather than if we see it as a stressful activity. Oh, I need to tidy up my room. Oh, then it's just a pressure. But if it's part of the Devi sphere, so to speak, you see, then it feels quite different. Or take cooking. Of course, sometimes we don't have a lot of time to cook and all that, but imagine you really understand as a Sri Vidya practitioner that cooking is an expression of one of the kalas of Devi. Then your entire process of cooking will be totally different. You will do it like a piece of art. And in fact, many really good cooks have told me that is exactly how they feel about their cooking. They always feel it's like an art. It's something, they don't just do it quickly. This is the problem of modern times, Devikaji. That is why everyone is in such a mess innerly. Not you all, but people in general. It's because everything is done from stress. Even the cooking is done from stress. It is just a kind of, we need to quickly do this and get it over with, right? So I'm exaggerating, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. Whereas here, everything that has been described is an art, you see? You cannot do an art with stress.
Yeah.
And the example about nature was that one of the arts is to learn to read the signs of nature, and the weather is part of that. So, for instance, of course, a very powerful one, which is very rare, is that when you have a very, very auspicious intention, you engage with people in something very auspicious, and if at that moment a rainbow appears, it means it is something very divine. And I've seen this time and again. Always at very special moments, the rainbow came. And it was almost, I could almost predict that the rainbow would come, to that extent that I could feel the situation was so auspicious that I would tell, Tripuraji that, I think there's going to be a rainbow, and then there it was. It comes because you become trained in this, you know that, you know how to read the signs. But this is, of course, very extreme example. In fact, Adityaji sent me a report that last year, when this whole corona happened, and then all the people in the UK went out of their houses and clapped for the health workers, then suddenly there were rainbows everywhere. And there was even a report about this in the news. So it can be a coincidence, but it's just an example. Or we also say that when a very saintly person dies, very, very saintly person, there will be signs like that. There will be rainbows. But there are other signs as well, my dears. There are formations of the clouds, certain formations of the clouds that are related to certain things that are going to happen. There are also negative omens. There are also, but I'm not going to tell you the negative ones, because then you'll all be looking out the window. What are the negative omens, right? But there are also negative omens. So great spiritual practitioners will look at these omens, and they will only go on a journey if the omens are right. Whereas the modern man they just go, right? In the subway with the WhatsApp. So whereas the ancient people were very, very attentive to the atmosphere, the signs of nature, and they would only travel on certain when all this was aligned in the right setting. You understand?
Yes, thank you so much. And did you say that we as humans can influence the weather, or did I misunderstand that?
Sorry?
I don't know if I misunderstood, but I thought you said that as humans we can influence the weather. Or our mental state can influence the weather.
No, it's not about influencing the weather. It is more, this is a very subtle thing. You know, we would have to discuss this for an hour or so to explain what is meant by it. It is more that there is a correlation between weather and mind. I'm sure you've realized that, right? That it is very obvious that when it's sunny and blue outside, the mind is happy. And when it's gloomy and UK weather, right? Then the mind is in a strange shape. I always joke that the reason why the British conquered the whole world was because the weather in the UK was so bad, right? That's why they created the British Empire. I'm just joking. But there's definitely a correlation. But it's not that what we mean when we talk about this. It's something more. It's something deeper. It's something more complex. That, for instance, you're speaking about a certain profound truth, and at that moment the clouds open up and the sun shines. That, or someone else says something, and at that moment the clouds open, the sun shines. Then we take that as an auspicious connection, that this local weather at that moment is aligned with the mental state. But it's a very deep point, Devikaji. It's not just about look, the sun is shining, therefore what I said now is true. You see, it's not meant like this. It is a very, very sensitive. It's a great sensitivity that we have. And it is not just individual signs, it is the whole together, what is occurring together, you see? That, let us say, the sun is emerging and a certain bird makes a certain sound. The combination of these, of several things together, that is what gives us the information, you see? Or on a deeper level, a bird will make a sound, like a crow makes a sound, but you have to be quite advanced in your spiritual practice for this to work. It makes a sound, and this brings up an intuition in your mind about something. This is why many people in ancient times used to say the crows predict the future. This is because people were very sensitive, and somehow the sound of the crow would evoke an intuition, and then the intuition would be true, so people would start saying, oh, the crow told me. When actually the crow is more of a symbol. You know, it's a symbol activating an inner intuition. But these are very subtle points, and please don't mistake them to be superstition. They are not. But they are an art. They are a science. And it is something that has to be learned properly. And moreover, it's only possible to learn them when one is already more sensitive through the spiritual practice. Of course, some of them can be learned without that, but it does require a lot of sensitivity. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
All right. So let us finish here, wishing you all a wonderful rest of the week. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.